what's going on, guys? Welcome back. Today, I'm going to show you how to make a dog image calendar in React. Let's dive right in. All right, we are back in Visual Studio again. Now, I have cleaned up all our project this time. Because of time, I initially clean up some of the source files. I have all these 4 files left as the empty project. If you follow my previous tutorial, and you would be using npm create react app and some project file name, right? Let's say welcome or whatever. So this will create this skeleton file directory source code for you, and I have cleaned up the source code so that we are left with only the necessary ones: CSS, app CSS, app JS, index CSS, and index.js. So we're gonna create a image calendar. So let's see how we should do it. But before we do it, let's make sure everything works first. So it will be like I'm just typing something here. I am in main module, or main in the main app component. Just want to make sure everything works. So I would also envision we need a calendar image component here. So why don't we just create an calendar image component here just while we're at it, right? So we'll do import like how we would do it most of the time when we create our component. We import our React, and then we create our component as a arrow function, right? And then let's try make sure everything works together nicely here. I am in calendar image component, right? So making sure everything works, and then export this just to build out the skeleton, right? And in the app, we're gonna also call this import calendar image from calendar image, and then we can, while we are at it, we are going to call it calendar image. If you're not familiar with what I'm doing, please refer to my first tutorial, the React for beginner. I have covered all the basic stuff like what I'm doing here, and so we have everything, I think. Let's see if it works. Down here we are going, so what we did was we are in the app component, and we display this, making sure the app component is working, and also we call the calendar image component, which we just created. And what we'll expect to see is another message here, calendar image component. So two messages. Let's see if it works. npm start. Okay. Come on. Yeah, there. We have two components, right? So let's get rid of this and only focus on the calendar image component, right? And here, calendar image component. What we want to do is we want to download some URL, some dog image the web, some web API, and we'll use we want the image to be downloaded from the web API at the beginning of the web page loading, instead of loading on after the web page is displayed. So what we do is we use this concept called use effect and use state. How about that? From React, right? And I'll tell you what they do. Use effect will take an arrow function, and the arrow function will decide what to do when a state variable changes. What is state variable? State variable is a variable that during your session, your web page session, that variable is accessible in memory, and you can set the state, and you can also read the state. And because of the state variable, React will be notified when the state variable changes. And use effect is also the same way. If there's a state variable here, let's say, and if for some reason, something along the way, state variable sets state variable to something hello world or something, right? And this state variable, by using set statement, it will be changed, and then use effect will execute this code. If we have this code saying something like I equals I plus or something like that, this statement will be executed when this is changed. But here's the thing, we are not going to do that. We're going to call something like fetch docs, right? Just that. So hoping that every time this component is mounted to the web page, this function will be called to fetch some doc image from one of the APIs, web APIs. And why are we not keep giving anything here? Because we don't want it to monitor any state variable. We just want it to run once. So we will just give an empty monitor list, right? So here, let's clean this up, and let's define what it is. What does fetch docs do, right? Like what I said is another arrow function, and what it does is goes somewhere to fetch a bunch of URL that contains the doc image. You see what I mean? So here, let's define a variable called data, and we call the fetch React function to fetch something from this location. Let me copy the address here. And here, like that, okay? And then dogs will be, let's do await fetch and await data JSON. So what these two statements does is go tell React, hey, go out and fetch something from this API. This API happen to return an object that contains some URL to a doc image. And then once we get the data, we're going to format it in the JSON format, which React can understand and the serial can understand, and put the JSON object into doc here. And await statement here just means, hey, when I am going out there to fetch something, it might take some time, but while we're taking some time, we're not frozen here. We will allow the web page to continue doing something else, and when the web API finish downloading stuff, then we'll come back exactly to here, this statement, and continue this execution. So it's not like if we don't have await here, the web page might freeze because it's sitting there waiting for the response from a remote server. If the remote server is down for 25 minutes, it will wait for 25 minutes, right? So we don't want to sit there and wait. We want to, while we're waiting, we can do something else. That's what async and await would help you do, will do for you. So here we have doc, and let's make sure we know what the doc looks like, right? Just log it, nothing more. And then we'll figure out how to use that information. Just like that. And by now, let's reload. By now, we should have downloaded that doc and log it. Look at that object. We found it. This is what the logging statement look like. We will log an object for you. The object contains two fields. They are message and status. And as you can see, the message, it is a JPG, that a URL to a JPG corresponding to a doc image. Now how do we display that? Imagine we can do something like image source equals to curly braces. That means we switch back to JavaScript, and then get doc message or something, right? Then let's do a width or height equals 500. Let's say 500, something like that, right? Imagine we can do that, but as you can see, doc is a local variable. Here we cannot access it. Once this doc variable get out of scope, this function is finished, doc will be destroyed in memory. So we have to somehow declare a variable. This is when use state comes in. So const, we call this doc and set doc and use state and do it like this. Why does it say, hey, create a variable that can be accessed within this function, a state variable, and the variable will contain a JSON object. This curly braces means JSON object will contain JSON object instead of a 1. If it's a 1, React will interpret, hey, this doc must have a type of integer or something like that. But we are specifically saying, hey, it will contain a JSON object. So in this case, when we have the doc object here, local doc object, we're going to set doc and pass that. Now from this point on, this state variable doc will contain what we saw here, message and status, the whole object. Now, and then we can do we can safely reference it here, dot message referencing this state variable. So let's see if it works. Bam, there, right? It's just like that. Let's refresh this again, right? You keep getting different docs, right? Easy, right? So now what else can we do here? I don't want to just look at one doc and reload so many times. How about we look at a couple docs and see what happens? So in order to look at a couple docs, two things we need to do. We need to download a couple docs, and we need some way to display those couple docs together, right? So let's download a couple docs first. So we don't want docs singular, we want docs plural, and instead of storing one object, we store array of objects. Array in JavaScript we use square bracket to signify array. Now we are going to, what can we do now? How about this? We are going to do a for loop here. I equals this. This is a very generic for loop, right? And then we move all these up here, right? And then we are going to, how about we're going to instead of saying docs, we say, we don't set docs yet. I'll tell you why in a minute. And we are going to do this. Say a variable, docs, okay? Plural, local variable, docs, equals array, an array, right? And then we're going to say, hey, docs equals a new array, docs, dot, like that. What we're doing here is, hey, we're going to create a new array here and assign it to this variable docs, and copy the old content of docs, the existing content. If right now this doc array holds 2 docs, then we'll copy the 2 docs and put it here, and append a new doc that we just downloaded, total of 3 now, and assign it back to the docs array. And then at the very tail end, we set docs to the state variable all at once. So docs, right? The reason we are doing that is every time we invoke this setter function, React will react to that setter by refreshing the web page, the web page affected by the state variable. We don't want, if we download 1,000 docs, we don't want to do this, right? If we do that, 1,000 refresh will be costly. We should be using a variable here to hold it until we finish downloading 1,000. Then we just refresh it only once, right? So that's a performance thing. Now we have the docs array, but we need to figure out how to display them. We can just copy and paste this thing multiple times, or we can use something called Bootstrap. Bootstrap, if you, let's go here, I'll show you what Bootstrap looks like. Bootstrap React. This is another library, a very good library to use to build all kind of components. Before we go there, let's see what they have. we can build we can use component alert, accordion, like that, and even nice buttons like that, and breadcrumbs. You are familiar with this, right? Must have seen this. And modal like this. So you must have seen a lot of these Bootstrap website, but you just didn't know what they were. Carousel like this, right? So in fact, we're going to use carousels. And how do we use it? Let's say first we need to install the component like that. Let's install the component here. Right? You install it, and then you are going to include this CSS thing. I will include it in the out here in the app.js, and then from that point on, you are going to be able to include the carousel component. Let's say how to use it, right? Carousel, where is it? There. So you will use carousel import. Again, we only import the stuff that we want. Carousel from React Bootstrap, like that. And then now, what we can do here is this carousel, okay? And then inside, if you look at the menu, carousel will have something like carousel item, carousel, and then carousel item. It looks like this. Carousel item contains the image. So in order to contain the image, we're going to use this function called docs. Ooh. Docs.map, and then doc equals img source equals doc message, like that, and then height equals 500, like that, right? Then take this away. What this statement does is we reference the docs array that has 5 docs or whatever number of docs, and then we take one doc out at a time, singular, one doc out at a time, and substitute and format this image tag, just HTML, and use dot message as the URL for the image source, just like that. And then if we have 5 docs here, this statement will be repeated 5 times, right, with different URL each time. Let's see if it works. Let's make sure we save it all. Oh, dude, what happened there? Okay, let's save it all. And then we're gonna run the server again because we started to install stuff. There. No, loading. Oh, there. Okay, why doesn't it work? Oh, we are missing this. We are missing carousel dot item, like that. Dude, newbie mistake. and then here. Nope. Carousel item. What, like that. Okay. Then another one. Carousel here. I tell you, it's so hard to match all the thing. And then right there. It's so hard to match all this junk. Okay, like that, right? And save. There, you see we have a carousel now. It's just like that. It's so powerful. Bootstrap, right? And so what if we want to make many requests, right? Instead of only 3, I want to use a different amount other than 3. We can just pass in a parameter, number of dogs, right? And then that, right? And then that should be it. And then we call the fetch dot. Where do we call fetch dot? Fetch dot 5, right? And then bam, all of a sudden we have 5. Now, so you see there is a hidden arrow here, but if it's white on white, it's hard to see. It's not good user experience. So I'm gonna apply some CSS here that I copy from a website like this. I'm not good at CSS, so I use website generator to copy CSS. By the way, you can always Google something like CSS generator or something, and this is the one that I use, the first one. And then the box shadow, you can tweak this your box until the cows come home, and and just copy it, right? Just like what I did. So I did copy WebKit box shadow, blah 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 blah. Now let's apply the CSS. It's also very simple. You are going to apply it to the carousel. How about that? Apply CS by saying class name equals whatever class name you gave in your CSS file. Calendar image. We put calendar image here, right? And then that should be it. Let's see. Come on, where is it? There. See, it's a little bit purple background with shadow. I like that. I think now this is very functional now, right? And we reload, and then we have this. Different dogs, man, different dogs. Now, how do we do the calendar, right? What we do is down here. Oh, actually, here there is something called full calendar React, right? And then you have a full calendar component here, and there are a bunch of examples. But before we do anything, we need to install it. Just copy it, and then again we break the development server, and then we're going to install it. Bam, like that, right? A lot of stuff you can copy nowadays, man. Copy it from the npm package. Now we install it, and then they have sample code here. We get the 2 imports that we need, and I'm gonna be lazy. Honestly, I'm gonna be lazy and put it in the app.css. Ooh, what happened here? Ooh, dude. Copy and then paste there. And then we're going to do, where is the calendar? Oh, let's do that. We have a calendar here, right? And just copy this guy. Day grid plugin, day grid month. And then see what happened here, like that, right? We have not. Okay, what happened here? Oh, we haven't done the development server. No wonder it didn't update. npm start, my favorite npm start. There, your dog calendar right there, man. Now let's put a little break here, just to get it like that, and we can reload. Bam. And we can have maybe put height equals to 400 or something, just to limit the height of the calendar. Maybe I don't know, view 400 pixel maybe. I'm just guessing. There, about 400 pixel the calendar, and then we can see most of it, right? Or if we do like maybe 300, hopefully that would work. I'm just trying it out like that, okay? Oh, we cut it off. Okay, come on. How about 350? What with me here, okay? There. Oh, whatever. You get what I mean, right? Now, it looks good, but I want to make it like a little animation here to make it bouncy. What do? We can install something called Framer Motion. And let's see what this is, what Framer Motion is. Framer Motion. And there is Framer Motion here. Framer Motion is a library that does all this kind of 2D animation for web page. And it's very, very awesome, man. But let's install it and I'll show you. Install it. Now, with that installation, we can do import motion, and from Framer Motion, and then Framer Motion will animate anything for you, including your custom component. For example, if I want to animate a calendar only, the carousel, the calendar image, I would just say change this div to motion.div, any legitimate HTML5 tag, you can change it to motion version by prefixing the HTML tag with motion dot. With that gives you ability to determine the animation parameter. So what you do is something like this: initial x negative 50 negative 500 or something like that, right? And initial equals to something like that, and then another prop we'll put in is animate to maybe y equals negative, animate to y equals 0, right? And then the transition will be like duration. We give it 5 seconds, maybe 2 seconds. Do 2 second duration. Type is spring, and damping will be like 3 maybe, and bounce 0.3, something like that, right? And what this is saying is, hey, let's animate this. The initial position of this div is somewhere high up in the invisible area, negative 500 y coordinate, and animate to the natural position, which is 0, and then in 2 seconds, and give it a bouncy feeling, spring, and the damping and bounce determines how bouncy and how fast the spring stabilize. Damping is like how fast it stabilizes. Bounce is how bouncy it is. So let's see what happens here. And all these parameters are in this manual, Framer Motion API. So what now we have saved it. Let's run our development server. Ooh, and see, right? Still works, right? Oh, 2214. I haven't import stuff. Import motion. Where did I import it then? I thought I imported from Framer Motion. There, you see it bouncy? It takes a little bit too much time, but you can see it once it's loaded, you can bounce. This is some interesting thing we can play with. Cool, huh? So I hope you in this tutorial we cover a couple of things. We cover how to use Bootstrap to make your web page looks professional, your carousel and all kind of stuff. And we also cover the concept of use effect and use state, and how to use async function to fetch some API, to interact with API, web API. And finally, we also dabble into one of the very powerful 2D animation library called Motion Framer Motion. And I hope you like this tutorial, and if you like it, smash the subscribe button, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.